Hello, this is Gernge with another quick tip video. Today we'll go over some tips on how to texture large surfaces. This is usually a challenge because image textures tend to tile or visually repeat when applied to large things such as buildings or the ground. Here in this demo scene of this multi-story building, our end product will be a concrete material from Megascans, and we'll use Maxon noise to offset the texture position and scale, as well as add more subtle color variation and eliminate the texture repetitions. Let's hop into Megascans and get started. Using the filter menu, I'll pick a large size since our building is rather big. And as I'm scrolling, I'm keeping an eye out for anything with sharp lines, since those types of textures will be harder to tile using this method. This one looks quite nice. It says it's for a floor, but I think I can make it work. Plus, it's a nice size at 4 meters. We'll download it and send it over to C4D. With the render view running, I've scaled this texture a bit to match its 4-meter size based on the height of my building, and we can see that there's a bit of visual tiling here and here, so we've definitely got some work to do. Let's get going now. We'll start things off with a Maxon noise, solo the node. We gotta raise the scale a bit. For my building, 10 will work, and it needs much higher contrast. Additionally, the noise type box noise will work well since we'll get some pretty nice patterns of horizontal and vertical chunks, but it still has some organic splotchiness that will look pretty natural. What we're planning on doing with this noise is using it to drive the offset of these other texture nodes. We'll need one more thing to help, and that'll be a vector change range. The reason for this being the offset parameter has two values for the X and Y texture offset. We'll plug our input in, get this change range node connected to all the texture offsets, and go back to looking through our material. Nothing looks very different, and the reason for that is the vector change range has a default value of 0 for the min and 1 for the max, which is actually perfectly looping our texture back over itself. I'm going to try something small, like 0.1 and 0.1. So if we're curious on what this is doing, we can save a snapshot, or I'll send to the picture viewer. So flipping between these renders, we can start to see that we're offsetting and breaking up some of this texture. I think that looks pretty nice, so it's time to move on. We can push this a bit further by following the exact same process, but for texture scale. So I'll begin by duplicating my Maxon noise and change range nodes. For this setup though, we'll want to make sure we change the vector change range values. This range min being 0 means that the textures will be scaled to 0. They effectively won't show up at all. We'll go over to our texture node and see that we used scale 2, using that for my range minimum, and bumping up the range maximum, say 2.3, will give us a healthy amount of variation. I'll go ahead and connect those now. Now when setting up this other Maxon noise, make sure to change the seed as well. So using our handy snapshots, we can see our offset with no scale and our offset with scale. We're definitely getting somewhere with these noises, but we can push it further if we spend more time. I'm going to speed up this and set up a noise and change range that controls a color correct node and the gamma of our concrete. It'll be subtle, but feel free to experiment with this and maybe color variation too. We can get pretty far using these techniques with the Maxon noise, but you can always add in other texture resources. I'm going to find an aerial concrete from Polyhaven, which is a free texture resource. I like this one's ambient occlusion map in particular because it's a really large 30-meter scale, and it looks like some grunge. Soloing this texture and color correct node, we can start to get a sense for how large it is, maybe scale and adjust it ever so slightly. I like the placement of this because near this metal panel down here, we have a bit of grunge, so that's pretty cool. And we'll use this texture and color correct node to drive the level value of the main color correct node on our texture. And last but not least, we can always layer in another material. I've picked another concrete from Megascans, and I've got that applied, and I'm setting it up how I like, with some adjustments to make the texture color match a bit more harmoniously with our base concrete. I've done that by adjusting the gamma a bit and a color layer set to average. So we'll copy all these nodes, come back down here to our main material, paste those nodes and organize them a bit. Of course, we'll need another Maxon noise, and this is what's going to be doing all of our texture blending, so we'll change the seed on this as well. We'll solo the noise and set our region render back. I'm going to adjust my Maxon noise until I don't have any particularly dark or noticeably white splotches. We'll get our material layer, connect both of the concretes, and use our Maxon noise as the mask. So just to run through everything again, this is our base concrete, then the noise offset, then the noise scale, then the noise color correct gamma, the aerial concrete ambient occlusion grunge texture, then finally layering the second concrete material for megascans. And again, please feel free to use textures from any source you'd like, but we can see the before and after is pretty substantial, at least as far as texture tiling goes. And that'll cover everything for this quick tip on texturing large surfaces to remove texture tiling and repetition issues. Of course, there are many ways to do this, but hopefully this information proves useful to you, and if it did, please like or share the video. Thank you so much for watching.